Just a couple of guys dropping nuggets of wisdom as we talk about life, the universe, and, well, everything. Welcome to WizNugs.
Hi, and welcome to WizNugs. I'm Cisco.
And I'm Casey.
And today's episode is part 3 of our 3-part series talking about goals, setting them, how to maintain focus, and on this particular one, the change, comfort, and sacrifice that comes along with it. So the reality is goals means change, right? Because ideally we're setting something up for ourselves that we want to obtain, and that means we're going to have to be able to change things in our life to obtain it. Otherwise, we'd already would be able to obtain it without having to set it to begin with if we were already doing these things. So change itself can be very uncomfortable and disconcerting. For some people, it's very hard. In my particular case, about 10 years ago, I was diagnosed with diabetes. And I thought I was living a pretty healthy life. So, talking to the doctor about it, he had said, well, do you drink? Do you smoke? Do you do any drugs? I'm like, no, I don't do any of those things. And to be honest, I don't do a whole lot of exercise. I'll walk on occasion, stuff of that nature, but nothing that was any kind of regular regimen. But he said, well, what about family history? And I said, well, my mom had it, my dad had it, my grandma had it. And he says, well, it looks like you were doomed to get it just because of genetics. And I said, well, if I would have known that being younger, I would have had more fun, right? But be that as it may, it meant that I had a new goal for myself, and the new goal for myself was to maintain my blood sugar. Now, for the first several years, I was okay at it. Why? Because I didn't want to change my life, right? Didn't think it was fair, right? Like, why do I have to sacrifice these things? Because I think I'm relatively healthy and I make good choices. I eat regularly good food. Doesn't mean I don't have bad food on occasion, but for the most part, I'm within my weight range and felt that I was doing the things I needed to do. But
so when you say you did okay with it, you mean not as good as you could have?
Right. And because I wasn't comfortable with the idea of having to sacrifice everything in my life that I enjoyed in order to keep my blood sugar low, right? But more recently, I decided, you know what? My mom ended up losing one of her legs to it. And this is one of the things you find out. Like, okay, when I first got diagnosed with it, it was, all right, well, I have high blood sugar. Okay. So I won't eat as much candy or something, right?
Right.
Yeah, we're going to give you this medication. You got to take this medication every day, and hopefully that will help. Okay, cool. and at first it did, right?
And that's been my experience as an outsider has been like, okay, you've got diabetes. Well, you take some insulin after you eat?
Yeah.
Well, is that what you do before you eat? I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
But you just you give yourself a shot and everything's fine, right?
Well, it depends, right? Every case is unique. Every case is different, right? So for me, it was just taking pills. And the pills at first were great, and that's all I needed to do. And I didn't have to change anything, right? I wasn't having to exercise more. I didn't really cut anything out of my regular diet. I was still drinking my sodas on a regular basis and stuff of that nature. But the pills themselves were enough. But then eventually your body gets used to those pills, and they don't work as much as they used to. And then you have to start getting more pills and doing other things. I'm not on insulin as of yet, and the goal is to try to not to get to it. So what does that mean? That means I had to set a goal for myself, which involves a lot of sacrifice. And I wasn't comfortable with this change at first because I didn't feel like I should have to. But the reality is I need to. So what do I need to do? That means that there is some sacrifice, and there's change involved, and there's a comfort level now that I have to adjust. I mean, for me, it was, I don't want to have to do these things, but at the same time, I don't want to lose a leg. I don't want to be blind. I don't want to have organ failure. Right?
So let's rewind that just a little bit. You said that you need to, but I think it's worth defining need in terms of consequences. That there are realistic consequences to if you don't manage this, if you don't take any steps, and you just do whatever you want, then you will have
Right.
consequences like
'Cause I could totally-
losing a leg or blindness, right?
Yeah. And I could totally see, like, you know what? Heck with it. I'm going to live the life I want to live, and I'm going to, what's the phrase from the Highlander movie? It's better to burn out than to fade away. So I could totally take that mentality and say, like, well, I don't care. I'm going to live the way I want to live, and I'm going to die in my early 60s just like my dad, just like my mom. But I don't want that. So based on my want...
It's an understanding of consequences is going to shape what your goal is.
I want to be able to retire and go do things and enjoy myself and not be decrepit when that happens, right? I mean, there's some things I'm going to be able to control and there's some things I'm not. But recognizing what I can control, like we talked about in our second episode, these are things I can control and I'm not going to worry about the things that I can't. So... for me, that was, I'm going to get better about monitoring my blood sugar. And so what I ended up doing is I got this nifty little patch, that I have a device on the back of my arm that lets me use my phone to scan my blood sugar anytime I want.
How does that help you? What does that do for you?
So what that does for me is that allows me to, like, okay, I'm feeling peckish. I'm feeling like kind of lightheaded. What's going on? Scan it. Oh, my blood sugar is actually kind of low right now. I need to eat, right? Or I'm like, wow, why can I not focus on the screen? What is going on? Why do my fingers and hands feel tingly? Wait, where's my blood sugar at? I scan it. Oh, that's really high. I better go do a walk or something because this is not sustainable. This is what leads to the problem that high blood sugar causes in your system. So having this on me allows me to immediately diagnose where my blood sugar is at and decide what the correct action is to take to address the issue.
And being able to do that has helped you to focus on what you can control. Going back to that second episode and going back to the first episode, having the larger goal here. Now you have specific measurements that you can take of your blood sugar. You've got a specific goal about, I think you said, to get off some of the medications.
Right. Yeah, definitely reduce them, right? Because of the sacrifices and changes that I've made, no more soda, even though Mexican Coke, as it's referred to, is like the best drink on the planet. And I love to have it. But I did a test and it is not good for me. My body does not metabolize it well.
Gotcha.
If you're not familiar, as a diabetic, you get blood sugar spikes depending on what you eat. And if you eat too much of a certain thing, it's going to jump up through the roof and then hopefully come right back down again. The problem that I have with certain foods is it pops up and it stays there. And that's the problem. So making the analysis on some of the foods that I eat, and then looking at it a couple hours later, like, where's my blood sugar at? And is it peaking or is it peaking and plateauing?
And then taking this information and feeding that back into the system, turning this into a loop so that you can say, okay, I tried this. The result was something that I don't want to have long term. So I need to feed that back into my system. That's on my foods that are very rare, if ever. And then you move forward with a new plan for the next thing. Yep.
And so this has allowed me to focus on my goal of maintaining my blood sugar by being able to monitor it at all times, even though, again, I didn't really want to sacrifice the things that I wanted to do. I did not want to get into that uncomfortable zone of feeling like this isn't fair. But it's based off of my want, and my want is to be around for a while and enjoy life.
And focusing on what you can control.
Right.
You don't get to control, in this case, that diabetes came to you.
Right.
That's something that's out of your control. But what you can control is how you respond to it and what you do next with it.
Right.
It makes me think about that, like you said in the beginning, that all of the goals involve change, right? We want to get somewhere, hopefully better than where we are now. Whatever that better is, whatever that thing is. I want to have added one more book to the realm of human knowledge or whatever. But if we kind of dive deeper into the way that human beings just biologically are structured, there seems to be a great deal in our systems, in our biological systems, about conserving calories.
So what do you mean? Is like we build up a habit or something?
Well, yeah, that every habit that we have comes back to calories. It's in our brains even. The neurons wire together that when we're involved in doing anything at all, the first time we do it, it takes effort.
Okay. Yeah.
The second time we do it, it takes a little less effort.
Because you're a little bit more familiar with it.
The 500th time that you've done a task, you can probably do it blindfolded in your sleep, we say, right? You can do it without thinking about it because it doesn't take focus to do, because it's just background at that point.
I think it's referred to as second nature.
Sure. And so this reminds me, the analogy that I use with my kids to help them understand this is that creating a new habit's like forging a path through the jungle. And it might be all overgrown with plants and all you've got is a machete in your hand. But if you do the work and you go through and you're hacking that path through the jungle, you're cutting off vines and leaves and branches, and you're doing the best you can to get through, you can make the nothing, that path right through all that plant life, just barely a path.
And this is forming the new habit.
Absolutely. And then as you keep walking that path, it turns from barely a trail through the jungle into a path. The more that you do it, the more that you work it, it starts to become a paved road. And if you keep at it, you can make an 8-lane superhighway. There's some things that we just do without even thinking because we just know how to do it. And that's the kind of habit that you can turn any of these goals into. That the first time when you start doing it, it's hard. It's not comfortable. It's not something that that your body wants to do in that moment. Even if your brain has decided this is a good thing to do. This is a goal that's admirable. This is a thing that's important to me to achieve. At the beginning, there's resistance.
Right.
You don't have the knowledge, maybe. You don't have the ability, maybe. But you got to keep working at it as you try and as you train your muscles, as you train your body. I mean, even muscles, for example. If you want to get stronger, if that's your goal, and you start working, there's real limitations at first. You can't just pick up a super heavy weight and just pick it up.
Yeah, and you want to talk about sacrifice and being uncomfortable. That next day after you won and you went to the gym and you lifted weights, and you cannot move your arms and legs, and you don't want anybody to touch you, and don't look at me because I feel that even having your gaze upon me is going to cause me pain, right? But yeah, I think I understand that. I understand what that means and where that comes from.
Stretching and building new muscles physically takes breaking down the old muscle. That's what our bodies are doing. That's what that burn is. It's the buildup of lactic acid as the muscle tissue is actually broken down and it's built back stronger. Because we've done something hard, our body prepares us to be able to do more of that same hard thing.
But now when we're doing a habit, you don't necessarily, if you are building the new pathway, it's not like you're going to get a headache, right? Because it's not the same thing, but there is effort involved, and there is discomfort involved, and there is breaking the old way of doing something in order to get to that new goal, the new path. And It's going to be hard at first. I speak from experience.
If your go-to is to reach into the fridge and grab a soda, and your goal, whether it's managing diabetes or weight loss or whatever, your goal might involve, I'm going to stop drinking soda. Well, there's a number of different ways you can go about this. There's as many different ways as there are people on the planet. Yeah. And you can go through and you can try different things. If the number one thing that you like about grabbing that cold soda is that it's cold, well, gosh, you can get any number of cold drinks. Cold water might be exactly what you need in that moment to help.
Or more likely what you do need, but it just doesn't taste the same. Does not have the same Mexican Coke that's the best.
So for me, it's Mountain Dew. I absolutely love the sweet, sugary. It's ridiculously sweet. But in working on this habit, I've started drinking the seltzer water, the just barely flavored.
Wait. I'm not going to say the brand name, but I know what you're talking about.
Oh no, I've tried like 7 or 8 different brands at this point.
Oh, okay. I always think of the one brand name where it's the this tastes like somebody thought about lemons.
As they were walking by the vat, they screamed the name of the fruit into the.
Yes, that one.
And don't get me wrong, it's not the same. It's not even kind of the same. But for me, I've noticed that one of the biggest parts of that habit is having something cold and fizzy that I can reach for. So I'm kind of tricking my brain a little bit here.
Sure.
And I'm giving my body a decoy so that it cold and fizz, and you get that feeling on the throat of the fizz. Well, a can of seltzer, and it's even in a can. It's still that same aluminum shape. So my hand is used to holding that shape.
But have you, because I know Mountain Dew has a decent amount of caffeine in it, have you been having any kind of like caffeine withdrawal from that?
Oh, I mean, I'm still working on that.
Oh.
I haven't completely cut it out of my life.
Okay.
I've switched to the 0 sugar versions, and I'm working on it.
Yeah.
But that's the goal. It's about progress, and it's about controlling the things that you can control.
Right.
Even if it's a sacrifice, because we're giving up something that we are comfortable with for something that we want better.
Yeah.
Something better, something we want more.
I think for me, as a personal experience, is the argument of this isn't fair. This is so unfair, and that is such a big deterrent in preventing you from getting to the goal that you want to reach. And especially in my case, I was going to the movie theaters and seeing people have the large things of popcorn, the giant bags of candy, the big container of soda, and like, I can't do that. Well, again, I say can't. I could do that. I could say to heck with it and have those things anyway, and then suffer the consequences. Some unknown, most of them known, because I'd already gone through this.
And very few of them good.
Or I could be like, it's okay. I'm really here for the movie, and I'll do whatever I need to do beforehand to satisfy any craving I may have, whether I drink a bottle of water, a glass of water, or I have a snack that's going to be better for me, and will satiate that feeling of needing to have something to munch on. And so that way I can just watch the movie and be okay and not worry about how unfair this is, and let that be the deterrent to what I want to get to. And there are going to be things that are going to be unfair, because to be honest, that's how life is in general. But we persevere because we have goals that we want to set and maintain and achieve, and that is worth it and more valuable than the perceived unfairness of the situation that you may be in.
And you brought up another thing that I feel like is worth kind of exploring just a little bit here. When we're talking about the habit of having a soda or popcorn, that for you is tied to going to the movies.
Right.
So we have these trigger events or these things in our lives that trigger that next thing. And that can be something difficult to overcome, but it can also be a huge boon in building new habits, in setting goals. We can tie a new habit to an existing habit.
So what do you mean?
Something for me that's helped me a lot lately. I used to be a little bit awful at dental care.
Okay.
Brushing and flossing has just never been an easy thing for me to do.
Well, you can preach to the choir in that one.
So for me, I made the decision that I wanted to do better at this.
Okay.
I had a particularly dismal dentist appointment. And I felt bad about it, and I decided I want to take control of this part of my life. I want to make a change. So I started the habit of every night before bed, as part of my bedtime routine, before I climb into bed, I'm going to brush my teeth. And I don't care what time of night that is, I'm going to brush my teeth. I'm going to floss every single night. I'm going to brush every single night. Now, whatever the dentists say, if you should be brushing twice a day or 5 times a day or after every meal or whatever. For me, making this change was one time right before bed. And doing that has helped me stick with it. I'm not forced to I'm not forcing myself to start from scratch and say, well, after every single meal, no matter where I am, I'm going to carry a toothbrush around with me and I'm going to find facilities. And that takes extra effort. But I already go to bed every night. I put on my pajamas and I use the bathroom. And that's part of my habit that I already have. a pre bedtime ritual.
Slipping one more little task in there, it's not that big of a deal.
Exactly. And so it can work for us or against us depending on what we're doing, and it might take some work to break some of those habits, like the snack at the movies. Or for some people, if it's important enough, it may just be, look, I know that if I go to the movies, I'm gonna want a candy and a popcorn and a soda, and I don't want to have a candy and a popcorn and a soda, so I'm not going to go to the movies.
And that shouldn't be the deterrent from stopping you living your life and doing something. Find the substitute, find the solution, find the workaround, whatever that is, right? And that goes back to...
And only the individual can make that choice for themselves about, well, I've set this goal, I've been working this program, I broke it down into actionable steps, I've been taking the steps, I've been monitoring my progress, and I'm not making the progress that I wanted to make. I'm going to take this additional step now. And for me, that's what Mountain Dew was. That's what my soda habit was, is that I've been kind of working on this. I've been kind of working on eating more vegetables. I've been kind of working on fewer processed meals. I've been kind of working on getting more activity in my day.
And so that's the interesting thing about what you said, and I'll try to keep this short. You can have a big, far-reaching goal, like for my case, manage blood sugar, but there's little tiny goals in there as well. Now, if we talk about the big goal of lowering blood sugar, part of my daily life or weekly life is go to the movies. And what does that involve? Like popcorn, candy, soda. All right. Well, my goal now is not to have that when I go to the movie. So what do I do? How do I make that happen? And that's taking those little actionable steps within that smaller goal, which now helps me achieve the bigger goal.
And maybe it starts with still getting the popcorn and the candy, but I'm not going to get the soda.
Yeah.
If that's your actionable item, if that's the level of step that you're ready to do. That's another thing that I've learned, is that the major transitions that we try to make, a gigantic goal of I'm going to eat perfect, whatever that means, that can be hard to maintain over time, but making small incremental changes, we can build on each other. We can build on those things. We can get better one little step at a time.
So in summation, in making your goals, setting them, staying focused on them, the big part of it in a lot of cases is the sacrifice, the change, and the discomfort that you're going to have in making this goal obtainable and achieving the goal. Staying focused on it is a huge step, and learning to find ways around the discomfort and the change part of it is going to be a big part of the process. But staying focused on it and being positive about it, involving whoever is in your life, whether it be family members or people that you work with, your spouse, your children, your parents, to help you, support you in getting to this goal, whatever it is. It's a big part of it. And I highly encourage that you take whatever steps that are necessary and are also positive to help you obtain your goals. I hope you enjoyed this small series on goals and setting them. We appreciate your viewership. If you get the opportunity, please hit the like and subscribe. And as always, I'm Cisco.
And I'm Casey.
And thank you for joining us on WizNugs. Hope to see you again.
Thanks for joining us today on WizNugs. If you liked what you heard, spread the word. For more information, head over to mywiznugs.com.